My girlfriend, Sophia, was kidnapped by her ex. The condition for her release was for him to see who her true love really was. Without hesitation, Sophia dialed my number, only to be met with my cold rejection, and I even broke up with her on the spot. The reason for my harsh decision was simple: she had no idea that I had long known about her countless affairs behind my back, all in search of the shadow of her first love, the boy she grew up with. Even I, with my resemblance to him, was nothing more than a stand-in, but what she didn't expect was that after I completely cut her off, she could never let go of her feelings for me, and she went crazy searching for my shadow. Chapter 1. When I handed in my resignation letter, the HR manager was sitting with his head down, unwrapping a box of candy. Resignation. He paused, holding the candy wrapper. Do you think President Kim will agree? She just gave everyone candy this morning and mentioned that today is your 5-year anniversary together. I didn't respond. I just pushed the resignation letter toward him, signaling for him to pass it to Sophia for her signature. Soon, the manager came back with the signed letter and said, "Assistant Wong, President Kim signed it, but she was on the phone earlier. It seemed like she didn't realize it was you resigning." He paused before saying again, "Are you sure you don't want to reconsider? You're President Kim's most trusted and valued assistant." There was no expression on my face, but inside, I felt a dull pain. Last night, I found a small condom used by a man in their future wedding home. She had said that she needed to ventilate the house after the renovations, but then she turned around and slept there with another man. In that moment, I thought I would break down, lose my mind, and ask her how she could repeatedly trample on my sincere feelings. But in the end, I did nothing. I simply bent down, picked it up, threw it in the toilet, and flushed it away. 10 years from 18 to 28. 5 years of official dating. These heartfelt years had come to an end. I only remember calmly saying to Sophia, "I'm resigning. From now on, you can walk your own path." She scoffed and lightly tapped my face with her fingertip. "You can't bear to leave. Don't make such meaningless jokes." "Fine," she said, retracting her hand and adjusting her sleeve, her gaze indifferent. "If you're really determined, then go ahead and follow the process." So, I wrote my name on the resignation letter and formally submitted it. "Assistant Wong, you really don't want to stay?" the manager unwillingly asked again. I replied calmly, "Yes, please arrange for a new assistant to take over." After leaving the HR department, my phone buzzed with a message from Sophia, urging me to go to her office. She was handling business, not even lifting her head when she ordered, "There's an important cocktail party tonight. Go pick up the dress and the sapphire necklace. Make sure you clean each stone of the necklace. Also, make me a cup of coffee." After finishing, she waved her hand and continued with her work. She obviously hadn't noticed I was leaving. I had no intention of reminding her, so I simply replied with an and turned to instruct an intern to make the coffee while I grabbed the car keys and headed straight for the dress store. The dress was perfectly pressed, and the necklace sparkled after being carefully cleaned. I had willingly taken care of these trivial tasks for 5 years. Even handling the Kim family's petty matters. Her mother needed a tooth extraction. Her brother skipped school. A relative owed money from a mahjong game. What groceries to buy for the fridge. At the Kim household, I was like a free servant. Anyone could order me around. I never felt wronged before, always thinking that if I did more, my Sophia would have an easier time. But now, those extra things suddenly lost their meaning. All my efforts had turned into a joke. Once I finished handing over my work, I would finally be able to remove myself from the Kim family's world. I returned the dress and necklace to the company. At 8 in the evening, I drove Sophia to the cocktail party. Before getting out of the car, she frowned and complained, "I only drink coffee made by you. How could I let someone else make it? Don't do that again next time. And you can wait in the lobby. No need to come inside." With that, she turned and walked in on her high heels, leaving me standing alone by the car. I found a corner to sit, my eyes instinctively following Sophia's figure. She was standing with a young man, laughing and playfully hitting his arm, leaning closer to him. I had seen this scene too many times. From the initial sting to the later numbness, I had long learned to remain unfazed. Time passed second by second, and Sophia effortlessly moved through the crowd, clinking glasses and talking to different people. I looked down at my watch, then lifted my head, casting one last deep glance at Sophia. I stood up and walked out without looking back. I had waited long enough. It was time to leave. Chapter 2. Back at the villa where we lived together, I packed my things and stayed busy until the early hours of the morning. Sophia Kim hadn't come back, and she hadn't sent me a single message on WeChat. I didn't worry about things like I used to. I casually threw the anniversary gift I had prepared for her aside and went straight to sleep. I don't know how much time passed, but suddenly, there was a loud knocking on the door, and the person outside barged in, her voice sharp and harsh. "Do you still have the face to sleep?" The housekeeper said Sophia didn't come back last night. "What kind of boyfriend are you?" The blanket was yanked off me violently. and I quickly grabbed a pillow to cover myself. Just wearing your underwear to sleep. How disgusting. Where's my daughter? Why isn't she home? I scowled and looked at Kim's mother, saying, your daughter often stays out all night. Where she went? You should ask her. Get out. I need to change. Kim's mother rolled her eyes and slammed the door wide open. I was fuming, but I knew exactly what kind of person she was. I grabbed some clothes and went to the bathroom to change. By the time I came out, Sophia was already leaning on the sofa, rubbing her temples. Next to her, Kim's mother was incessantly complaining and accusing. I've always said that illegitimate children have psychological issues, but you wouldn't listen. Just now, when you weren't here, he yelled at me. I'm an elder, and he disrespects me so much. No upbringing. Mom. Sophia interrupted coldly. Why did you come so early? What's going on? Kim's mother's expression softened slightly. You know your little aunt's daughter got expelled for fighting, right? She doesn't have a college degree, so it's hard for her to find a job. There's that private university in the city. Can you use your connections to get her into it? Sophia gave a perfunctory response, but Kim's mother wouldn't let go. You're a well-known entrepreneur. Do something about it. After all, she's your sister. I glanced at them. Kim's mother's eyes were now on me. I immediately understood. Sure enough, she mentioned the school I was familiar with. Isn't George's dad the vice dean there? A word from him could save tens of thousands. Sophia finally remembered and was about to ask George, but I preemptively rejected it. You're right. I'm just an illegitimate child. Why would I contact my biological father? He won't care about me. Besides, university admissions are based on scores. The meaning was clear. I couldn't help. And even if I could, I didn't want to get involved in such matters. Kim's mother became more forceful. Your dad has only one son. How could he not care about you? I think you don't care about Sophia at all, which is why you refuse to agree. Is it really that exhausting to do one thing? I stayed silent and pretended not to hear her. Sophia, having a headache from the argument, said, please stop. I'll think of something. You can go home now. Kim's mother closed her mouth, and as she left, she slammed the door behind her. Once she was gone, Sophia sat beside me, leaned into my arms, and hugged me tightly, saying, my mom talks like that, but don't take it to heart. Don't be mad. I didn't say anything. When I looked down, I noticed a faint pink mark on her collarbone. I turned my head away, but Sophia clung to me even tighter. George, why didn't you wait for me last night? You didn't even call. That's not like you. People change. No one is an exception. Sophia smiled, but you won't change, especially not your heart. With no expression, I removed her hand. I'm on leave today. If you need anything, ask another assistant. I stood up and left. Behind me, Sophia furrowed her brows but smiled nonchalantly, not following me. In the afternoon, I went to meet with the HR manager from the venture capital company. He was sincere, and within half an hour, we finalized my future salary and benefits, 3 times higher than what I had now. We signed the agreement, and I was set to officially join a month later. The manager, Marco, put the contract away, joking, you're really jumping ship to your girlfriend's competitor's company. Won't she be upset when she finds out? Sophia was surrounded by so many men that it would be easy to find another assistant. As for whether she would be upset, I didn't care anymore. Just as I was about to speak, my phone rang, and Sophia's WeChat message popped up. What are you doing sitting with the HR manager from the venture capital company? George, you're not planning to betray me, are you? Chapter 3. I instinctively looked around. The next second, another WeChat message came from Sophia. Someone from the company said they saw you sitting with someone from the VC firm. I had thought she would at least ask me where I'd been. I made up an excuse. She's a childhood neighbor, just happened to work in VC, so we chatted a bit. Sophia replied almost immediately, got it. But be more careful next time. It's our competitor's company. It won't look good for you. Also, you're my boyfriend. Don't meet other women alone. I let out a soft laugh. Everyone at the company knew I'd submitted my resignation and was determined to leave Kim Group. Only Sophia treated it like some offhand remark, easily believing whatever excuse I gave without even bothering to question it. She was too sure of how deep and persistent my love was, convinced that no matter how many times she neglected or hurt me, I'd never actually leave. Favored by love, Sophia had always acted fearlessly. A week later, Kim Group co-hosted an international racing expo with several companies. As the event was about to end, a particular racing car caught my eye. It wasn't the flashiest one there, but at the rear of the car was a small white bellflower design and the letter Y. What made it special was that the original sketch had been hand-drawn by Sophia, for me. Later, I refined the design, but due to company financial issues, I had to sell it. I never expected it to actually be made into a real car. I stopped in my tracks, my eyes glued to it. Sophia walked over and glanced at it. You like it? I'll buy it for you. But didn't you promise me you'd stop racing? She paused, then added, whatever. If you like it, then get it. From her tone, I knew she didn't even remember where the design came from. I shook my head. No need, I'm not a racer anymore. But Sophia insisted on buying it and even had the designer brought out. The moment the men walked over, I looked at Sophia and saw the shift in her eyes. The man was fair-skinned and refined, with a small mole beneath his eye. Exactly the type Sophia always had a weakness for. She walked up right away, her expression softening. You designed this yourself? What kind of flower is that? It's really pretty. She struck up a flirty conversation with him. I lowered my gaze. 18-year-old Sophia had once clumsily drawn that racing design for me by hand. After I won my first championship, complete with both our initials and my favorite white bellflower, 28-year-old Sophia now used that same flower design to hit on another man. A dull ache throbbed in my chest again. I suddenly remembered the first time I caught her acting suspicious, and how self-righteously she'd said, "Did you see me get out of someone else's bed? If not, you have no proof I cheated." That day, I went drinking at a bar, trying to numb the pain. My best friend, frustrated, yelled at me, "Are you blind? Sophia's got flings all around her. She's a damn manipulator. You're killing yourself for someone like that. Is she really worth it?" Back then, I laughed in despair. Was it worth it? I loved her, so I thought it was. I always believed she'd settle down, kept hoping we had a future. She was the first girl I ever had a crush on. How could I just let go? But now, all the spark I had in my youth had burned out. I was truly, deeply tired. "George." I snapped back to reality, meeting Sophia's unhappy stare. "What are you thinking about? I called you so many times. Are you deaf or what?" The flash of irritation in her eyes hit me like a slap. Suddenly, all the years of holding on felt ridiculous. The love I had for her was fading fast. To Sophia, I probably looked like nothing more than a fool. "Sorry, President Kim, do you have any orders for me? I've got things to do. You go home first." Sophia tossed me the car keys. She looked like she wanted to say more, but I had already turned and walked away, keys in hand. She froze for a second before she could react. The designer next to her spoke up. "President Kim, shall we go?" Her attention immediately shifted, and with a coy smile, she took his hand and left the venue. Before heading home, I stopped by the office to organize some work files. Then I finally returned to rest. The next morning at 9 a.m., there was a ribbon-cutting ceremony for a joint project. But as the time approached, Sophia still hadn't shown up. Senior executives and staff from both companies were waiting, and with minutes to go, I had no choice but to call her. She picked up quickly, her voice slightly hoarse. "What's wrong?" "President Kim, the ribbon-cutting ceremony is at 9 you." Before I could finish, a man's voice came through the line. "Sophia, why are you up so early? You were so worn out last night. Sleep a bit more." Chapter 4. For a moment, silence fell on both ends of the line. After that dead silence, I spoke calmly. "President Kim, the ribbon-cutting ceremony is at 9. Both companies' executives are already here. Do you need me to send a car to bring you to the office?" Okay." Once I got her response, I hung up immediately. I arranged for the car at once and did everything a top-level executive assistant should, calmly and thoroughly handling all the pre-ceremony preparations. Only the slight redness at the corners of my eyes betrayed the real emotions I was trying to suppress. At exactly 9, Sophia arrived on time, and the ceremony proceeded smoothly. Afterwards, I returned to my office to prepare for the next meeting. I didn't expect Sophia to follow right behind me, entering without even knocking. "George, about this morning, I'm not angry, and I didn't overthink it," I interrupted, looking at her calmly. "But I still hope something like that won't affect work again. You're the president. If you're late, no one dares to say anything, but I'm your assistant. Every executive will blame me for not doing my job. I hope today's incident won't happen again. Can you stop talking about work for once?" Sophia snapped, irritated. I curled my lips into a slight smile. "If not work, what should we talk about? Romance and fairy tales?" Sophia was at a loss for words, her expression turning even colder. Looking at the impatience in her eyes, I suddenly realized how unfamiliar, how frighteningly distant, the woman I'd loved for 10 years had become. The Sophia at 18 wasn't like this. Noticing the indifference and detachment in my gaze, whatever guilt or shame Sophia might have felt instantly vanished. All that remained was anger. "I came all the way here to explain, and you're giving me this passive-aggressive attitude? Then I have nothing more to say to you." She stormed off, slamming the door hard behind her, but I didn't chase after her like I used to. I simply returned to my work, finished the reports, and sent them to Sophia. She read them but didn't reply. We entered a cold war. Sophia didn't return home for a full week. She even dumped the other assistants' tasks on me, clearly trying to pressure me into backing down and apologizing first. I quietly shouldered it all and kept urging HR to hire someone to take over my role. But the non-stop high-pressure work finally took its toll on my body. A stabbing pain tore through my lower right abdomen. My vision went black, and I collapsed in the office. When I woke up, The pungent smell of hospital disinfectant filled my nose. Turning my head, I saw Sophia sitting at the bedside, head propped on one hand, seemingly asleep. As soon as I moved, she jolted awake. Her eyes were bloodshot, and her beautiful face looked visibly tired. "Don't move," she said. "You had acute appendicitis. Just had minor surgery. Are you thirsty? I'll get you some water." As she spoke, she reached out and touched my forehead. "Good. The fever's gone. I was really worried about you." She called the doctor, poured water, cut fruit. She never left my side. When it came time to change the bandages, Sophia even asked the nurse for detailed instructions and insisted on doing it herself. She took care of me like we'd never had any conflict between us, as if we were still in those sweet, early days of our relationship. But then, she stayed in the bathroom a little too long one time, and something compelled me to walk quietly over, just in time to hear her voice, teasing and affectionate. "Just 2 days apart and you already couldn't hold back. Why are you so clingy in and out of bed?" My heart sank. I let out a bitter laugh. These 2 days of tenderness. All fake. Sophia was still the same, chasing the next thrill, loyal to no one, and I was a fool for ever believing otherwise, for losing myself in the illusion of warmth. When she came out of the bathroom, I had already packed up my clothes and was ready to check out. I looked at her quietly, already knowing she wouldn't be going home with me. Sure enough, the next second, Sophia hesitated slightly and said, "You're recovering well. Something urgent came up at the company. I have to go handle it. I'll have the driver take you home." "Okay." I gave a simple and Sophia turned and left the room without looking back. I checked myself out of the hospital. Just as I was about to leave, the attending doctor called me into his office. "Where's your girlfriend? Wasn't she by your side this whole time? There's something I need to discuss with a family member." My heart tightened. "Just tell me, doctor. I can handle it." The doctor frowned slightly. "Mr. Wong, your full body checkup after surgery showed shadowing on both kidneys. It could be an infection or potentially malignant. We need to run further tests to confirm." My heart sank heavily. After a long silence, I hoarsely asked, "So, does that mean I might die?" Chapter 5. I never imagined that before even turning 30, I'd have to associate myself with the word terminal. Will losing a kidney kill me? Or maybe I'd never even wake up again from the operating table. My thoughts were a tangled mess. I opened my mouth to ask something, but my throat felt blocked. Not a sound could come out. The attending doctor quickly tried to reassure me. "For now, it's only a suspicion. We still need further blood tests and analysis." He paused, then added, "Regardless of the result, surgery is unavoidable. You should contact your family. You can't be alone for this." I shook my head in silence. "No need to wait for family. I can manage alone." The doctor looked puzzled. "Your girlfriend took such good care of you before. Are you trying to spare her the worry?" I didn't answer, but a flood of thoughts surged through my mind. I was the illegitimate son the Wong family never acknowledged, never welcomed. My mother was in poor health, constantly on medication. I couldn't bear to make her worry even more. As for Sophia, even if I were really gone, she'd never be short of men by her side, so there was no point anymore. Besides, I had already decided to leave Kim Group. My life and Sophia's should have been completely severed. The biopsy results came back quickly. Renal oncocytoma, a tumor in the kidney. Surgery was needed as soon as possible. The operation was scheduled for 2 days later. I applied for another half-month of leave. On the day of the surgery, back at the Kim family's old house, Sophia's mother was pushing a stack of photos toward her. "Take a good look at his resume. Born into a real aristocratic family, educated abroad, and now a successful entrepreneur. Tall and handsome, too. Trust me, marrying him would be the best decision you ever make." Sophia snatched the photos and tossed them aside, her voice laced with irritation. "I have a boyfriend. Why should I go on a blind date?" "Boyfriend?" Her mother's voice went up an octave. "You mean that illegitimate brat working under you? Even the Wong family won't acknowledge him. A guy like that is just for fun. You actually want to marry him. Don't forget, his mother is a walking illness. If she gets worse, are you going to take care of her the rest of your life?" "That's enough. I'll decide my own life." Sophia's tone turned cold. "I'm not planning on getting married right now, but if I ever do, it'll only be to George." Her mother still wanted to argue, but Sophia had already gotten up and walked away, unwilling to listen to another word. Back at the office, Sophia instinctively headed toward my office, wanting to drink the coffee I usually made, but I wasn't there. She immediately called me. At that moment, I was in the hospital room, signing the surgery consent form. The doctor explained that although the tumor had been discovered early, the operation still carried risks. If complications occurred, one kidney might have to be removed. "Maybe you should have your girlfriend accompany you. That young lady seemed to care about you," he said. My phone rang. I answered. Sophia's voice came through, filled with annoyance. "Didn't you get discharged already? Why are you on leave again, and for this long? There's a ton of stuff waiting at the company." Gripping the surgical form tightly, I said. The doctor said there's an infection at the incision site. They need to clean the wound, and it'd be best if a family member could be present. George, aren't you being a little dramatic? Sophia's voice grew impatient. It's just appendicitis. That tiny wound needs cleaning and you're asking me to come all the way there again. Don't forget, I already looked after you for days at the hospital. If it's not something serious, then get discharged early. Even if it's infected, it's not like you'll die from it. It's not a big deal. Both the company and I need you. There's a pile of things waiting to be done. Then, as if suddenly remembering something, her tone softened a little. My birthday's in half a month. You're not planning to celebrate it in a hospital bed, are you? Only then did I remember that date. In past years, every birthday gift I gave her was one of a kind. I always wanted to give her the very best. But this year, do you want me to be with you on your birthday? I still asked. On the other end of the line, Sophia scoffed, amused. What kind of question is that? Even if I don't say anything, you'll stick to me like glue, just like every other year, right? Her absolute confidence once again reminded me of just how low I'd stooped in loving her. It was time to put an end to this. I swallowed the bitterness at the corner of my mouth. Come home early on your birthday. I'll make seafood porridge for you. Let that be our breakup dinner. Sophia sounded noticeably more cheerful, though she still mumbled under her breath. Porridge again. Shouldn't birthdays be about fancy dinners? She paused, then added in a softer tone. But fine, your seafood porridge is actually pretty good. I gave a quiet I'll be there on your birthday. The surgery went ahead as scheduled, and it was a success. I was lucky. The tumor had been caught early, before it had a chance to worsen. The attending doctor came by for rounds every day, always asking curiously why Sophia hadn't shown up once. I just said she was busy, and left it at that. Half a month passed quickly. On Sophia's birthday, I was discharged from the hospital. I bought fresh ingredients and returned to the villa, then started cooking the seafood porridge. I had always been more comfortable holding a pen than a spatula. As a designer, I didn't know my way around a kitchen. Back when I first tried learning to cook, Sophia had wrapped her arms around me and pouted playfully. Your hands are for racing, for drawing amazing designs, and most importantly, for holding mine. I don't want them touching soap water. You're my boyfriend, the one I love the most in the whole world. And I believed her. So over the years, the only dish I ever learned to make was the seafood porridge she loved. From morning until nightfall, I waited, but Sophia never came home. Just as I was about to pick up my phone and call her, the door swung open. I looked up and saw Sophia being carried on the back of another man. The moment she saw me, the smile on her face froze. She hurriedly jumped off the man's back, but he wrapped an arm tightly around her waist. The two of them wore matching outfits, coordinated couple clothes, their intimacy blinding. Chapter 6. My eyes landed on the man's hand wrapped around her waist. The sentence printed on his t-shirt, a cheesy line about love in English, stabbed at my eyes like a needle. Sophia quickly pushed him away. Her voice flustered. Why are you home? She paused, seemingly remembering the promise I had made. Her expression shifted as she turned to the men beside her. You should go. I have something to deal with. The men left reluctantly, even pinching Sophia's cheek before he walked out. My shoulders slumped. A wave of suffocating pain surged in my chest. I didn't even have the strength to be angry anymore. How many men had she brought into our villa during this half-month? How many had slept in our bed, used my things, maybe even worn my pajamas while tangled up with her? Sophia looked at my face, took a deep breath, and walked toward me, reaching for my hand. George, don't overthink it. Okay, it was just this once. I had a bit to drink, and he was just walking me back. I wasn't even planning to let him into the living room. Her eyes were filled with unease and concern, but not panic, not the fear of losing me. I took a step back and avoided her hand. My voice was flat. Forget it. Let's just leave it at that. I thought I had stopped caring long ago, but witnessing it with my own eyes, my heart still throbbed in pain, and even my voice trembled slightly. I'm sleeping in the study tonight. Your birthday porridge is in the dining room. I turned around and walked away, never looking back at her. Sophia had wanted to chase after me, but out of the corner of her eye, she caught sight of the bowl of seafood porridge on the table. On top, the words, "Happy Birthday," were carved out of carrots. Her heart skipped a beat. She stood frozen, staring blankly at that bowl of porridge. I shut myself in the study. The pain from my surgical wound was nothing compared to the dull ache inside. I fell asleep quickly, until the middle of the night. The bed suddenly dipped. I jolted awake. Behind me, a pair of arms wrapped tightly around my waist. Sophia whispered with guilt in her voice. This time it's my fault. I promise. I'll never bring another man home again. My body remained stiff. I didn't turn around to hug her back. George, I finished all the porridge. It still tastes just like before, really good. I closed my eyes and let her hold me. I only gave a quiet and said nothing more. The porridge was gone. Her birthday, I had kept her company. This would be the last birthday. This relationship needed to end. But as if she'd suddenly realized her mistakes, Sophia began sticking to me every day after that, refusing to leave my side. She even did something unheard of. She came with me to attend a classmate's wedding. She wore a dress in the same color as my tie and held my arm with a sweet smile. Seeing us together, an old classmate joked, "President Kim finally shows her face. We were starting to think George was hiding you away like some kept woman. You two have been officially together for 5 years now. When's the wedding? We want to drink your wedding wine already." In our whole graduating class, you two are the only couple that made it from school uniforms to now. If you get married, it'll be the talk of the town. Sophia smiled. Her lips curled perfectly. "Definitely. Once the time is right, I'll invite you all to our wedding. It'll be even more extravagant and romantic than today's." I smiled faintly, but didn't say a word. Just then, there was a stir at the entrance. I turned to look, and saw a familiar face walk in. It was the man in the photo Sophia used to keep in her wallet like a treasure. Back when I got jealous, she had pulled out the photo and laughed. "I'm your girlfriend now. You really think I'm going to run off with someone else?" Only later did I find out. That was Makoto, Sophia's childhood friend, her ideal man. He had gone abroad right after high school and never returned. Makoto, handsome and radiant, smiled as he greeted the guests. "Long time no see." I instinctively glanced at Sophia. Her eyes lit up, locked onto him with laser focus. In a soft voice, she replied, "Long time no see." After the ceremony came the banquet. With Makoto's presence, the atmosphere turned livelier. He was charming and accomplished. Hadn't been back in years. Naturally, he became the center of attention. Sophia's gaze followed him the entire time. She didn't speak another word to me. When someone came over to toast Sophia, Makoto walked over from across the room and handed her a glass of juice. "Alcohol's hard on the stomach. Drink this instead." Her eyes were full of emotion. I looked at her, that familiar love-struck expression, and forced a smile as I lowered my head and ate in silence. But then she turned to me and said, "George, why didn't you block the drink for me?" I wanted to tell her, I just had kidney surgery. Drinking alcohol might literally kill me. But before I could speak, Sophia stood up and said, "I'm going to the restroom." She didn't come back out until the banquet ended. She waited with me for the driver. Then she glanced at her phone and suddenly said, "How about, you go home first?" You sure about that?" I cut her off. I didn't want to keep acting anymore. "Are you really sure you want to leave? You're going to lie to me again?" Sophia's expression shifted. She bit her lip, then suddenly hugged me tightly. "George, I don't want this either. But something urgent came up. Don't worry. Next time I'll go home with you." She let go. Just then, the driver pulled up. Sophia reminded me to be careful on the way home, then rushed into another car and left. I stood there in silence, until the entire place was empty, and I was the only one left. Coming back to my senses, I looked in the direction she had disappeared and said quietly, "No, there won't be a next time, because this was the last time." Chapter 7. Sophia didn't come home that night, just as I expected. That night, I packed up everything that belonged to me and moved out. I took back all the gifts I had given her, burned the few remaining photos of us, and even shredded the racing sketch she had once drawn for me. I flushed the pieces down the toilet. 10 years of love, 5 years of being together. In the end, all it amounted to was a few suitcases. At dawn, I left the house key by the door. Aside from that, I left nothing behind. When the door shut softly behind me, it closed off the past, completely. I drove to the office, ready to gather my things, when Sophia suddenly walked into my office. "There's an important partnership deal. I need to go to Japan. Book me a flight." I instinctively replied, "Okay, I'll book us seats together." But Sophia corrected me. "One ticket is enough. You're not coming with me." I froze for a second, then lowered my eyes and said quietly, "Got it." She turned and left without taking any assistance along. She didn't send me a single message after that. On the third day of her trip to Japan, I was still at the office, handing over my duties to the new assistant. It was late when I finally left, and just as I got into my car, Sophia called. "You're still not home. It's way past work hours." "I'm out," I said casually. She didn't ask why I was out so late. Instead, she went on, "Can you call the security guard and ask him to open the villa gate? I had these pieces of furniture shipped from Japan just for you. You always said the bedroom furniture was outdated." "Right. I replaced all of it with new stuff. Spent a lot of money. You know, I also brought you some local specialties. I've been thinking of you every day while I've been here." "George, isn't this enough to make you happy?" My grip tightened on the steering wheel. I stayed silent for a moment before replying. "Sophia, you really don't need to do this." But Sophia seemed not to hear me. She kept excitedly talking about the furniture she bought and the interesting things she'd seen in Japan. Furniture can be replaced, but what about love? Can shattered feelings and cracks be replaced too? There was no need for her to do any of this, because I had already left that house. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my tone steady. Got it. I'll take care of it. Send me the delivery guy's number. As soon as I received the number, I called. I'll cover the shipping costs. Please return everything to Japan. Yes, I don't want any of it. Meanwhile, in Japan, Sophia hung up the call, let out a relieved breath, and turned to Makoto. He stood beneath a cherry blossom tree, with Mount Fuji in the background, smiling gently at her. Sophia walked over and sat beside him. Petals fluttered down like snowflakes, painting a picture too beautiful to be real. Two high school girls walked past, speaking in Japanese. You two look like a couple. So cute. Are you newlyweds? They held up their camera and giggled. Sorry for interrupting, but I took a picture of you. Hope you don't mind. They were both wearing real-time translation earpieces, so they understood perfectly. Sophia and Makoto exchanged a glance. Neither of them denied it. The air between them grew even more intimate. Sophia smiled and asked, "Can I get a copy of the photo?" "Of course. You two look like a couple from a love story." Sophia thanked them with a smile. After finishing her work in Japan, Sophia booked a flight back. The same day I was officially leaving the company. I had completed all handovers and was about to sign the resignation contract when the company received news. President Kim had just closed a multi-million-dollar deal. She booked a celebration dinner at the city's top restaurant, and though she couldn't make it back in time, she asked the employees to go ahead and celebrate. I hadn't planned to attend, but former colleagues warmly urged me. "You're leaving soon. This is the last time we'll all be together. We've worked side by side for 5 years. At least stay for a proper farewell." Even the HR manager persuaded me. "There's still time. You can finish the paperwork after the dinner. Just go, say goodbye properly." I couldn't refuse them all, so I went to the restaurant. During the dinner, the big screen lit up and the host raised the mic. "President Kim has something to say. Everyone quiet, please." Sophia appeared on screen, smiling as she greeted everyone and celebrated the huge deal. The room erupted in cheers. "President Kim, is tonight's dinner the only reward? You must have gone wild at the duty-free shops. Are we getting luxury giveaways? What about red envelopes?" The room was lively and loud. Sophia laughed and lifted her phone to show receipts from her shopping. "Besides these, I've got red envelopes too. I'll send them out later tonight." Just then, someone came over and handed me a large box full of red envelopes. "The amounts inside vary, all depends on your luck," Sophia's voice said from the screen. "I also bought lots of gifts, just a small token of appreciation for everyone's hard work lately." As soon as she said that, a doorbell rang on her end. Sophia smiled. "Looks like more gifts just arrived. Wait for me to bring them back." She stood up, but accidentally knocked over the webcam on the table. The camera fell and captured what was on the tabletop. Photo after photo, dozens of them scattered across the table, and the one most clearly in view was of Sophia and Makoto, standing beneath cherry blossoms, looking into each other's eyes, filled with emotion they couldn't possibly hide. Chapter 8. Hundreds of employees across the company saw that photo. The room fell into an instant silence, yet Sophia remained unaware. She held the webcam, showing off the gifts in her room, still smiling and chatting away. Around her, people tried to keep up the festive atmosphere, but in my ears, there was only a loud buzzing, drowning everything else out. In a daze, I seemed to hear whispers passing behind me, indistinct murmurs of judgment. Only after the video call ended did I slowly stand up. "Everyone knows I'm resigning," I said, my voice steady. "Sophia and I have already gone our separate ways. She's found new happiness. Isn't that a good thing? And I have a new future ahead of me. This is the best ending." It finally clicked for the crowd. One by one, they raised their glasses and offered congratulations. I couldn't drink alcohol, so I picked up a glass of juice and took a sip, but the sweetness burned my throat like needles, and even my heart seemed to clench with pain. A few hours later, the party dispersed. Before heading back to the office, I called Sophia. "Are you back yet?" There was a pause before she responded. "Still handling some stuff here. I'll be back in a few days." "Why? Did you miss me?" I dropped the unlit cigarette in my hand and forced a bitter smile. "No, just asking." I had wanted to say goodbye properly before I left. 10 years deserved at least a decent farewell. But she hadn't even returned to the country, didn't even leave me that last chance. "If that's all, I'm hanging up. I'm busy." Sophia ended the call in a hurry. I put my phone away, turned, and went back into the office to sign the final resignation papers. Just as I stepped inside, another assistant called me. "George, President Kim asked me to deliver some desserts, but I can't get away. Could you help out? It's at the Shuamachuan campsite." I froze. Shuamachuan was right here in the city, but Sophia had just said she was still in Japan. Suddenly, I needed to know, how could someone who was in Japan show up at a local campsite? I went to the dessert shop she loved most, picked up her favorite treats, and drove straight to the campsite. It wasn't far. I arrived in under 30 minutes. There were plenty of people at the campsite, but I spotted her instantly. Sophia was with only one person, Makoto. They were grilling meat together, fresh flowers on the table, and a small banner beside them, celebrating a major deal. So, they were celebrating alone. They chatted, smiled at each other, close, intimate, like there was no room for anyone else. I stood there for a long time. Only when someone bumped into me by accident did I snap out of it. Looking at them again, I suddenly smiled and murmured, "Goodbye." A goodbye for the Sophia in front of me. And for the version of us that existed when we were 18. There aren't that many decades in a lifetime. Sophia and I didn't make it through our 10 years, but walking this far with her, I had no regrets. Still, this was the end. Sophia and I would never meet again. Under the twilight sky, Sophia laughed as she spoke to Makoto. Someone approached them and said, "A gentleman asked me to give this to you." Sophia turned, and the man handed over a bag. "You're Miss Sophia, right? These are your desserts," from him. The familiar logo of her favorite cake shop was printed on the bag. A strange feeling rose in Sophia's chest. She hadn't wanted George to know she was back in the city. That's why she'd specifically told another assistant to handle the dessert. But how could someone else have known which exact shop she loved? Suddenly anxious, Sophia stood up and spun around the campsite, searching, but that familiar figure was nowhere to be found. "Your assistant has good taste," Makoto said casually. "These cakes are expensive, but worth it. They taste amazing." Sophia bit her lip. Then, without warning, she changed her mind. "Sorry, something urgent came up. I have to head back to the office." Meanwhile, I returned to the company, signed my name on the resignation contract, and deleted every trace of myself from Kim Group's system. From now on, I no longer existed there. I carried my box of belongings and stepped into the elevator. At that exact same moment, Sophia stepped into the executive elevator across the hall. 2 elevators, one going up, one going down, carrying us in opposite directions, farther and farther apart, never to intersect again. Chapter 9. Stepping into the elevator with Sophia was Makoto. He hadn't returned to the country in years, and not wanting to stay at the campsite alone, he decided to accompany her to the office. As they entered the company building, employees quickly gathered around to congratulate them. "Thank you, President Kim, for tonight's treat." Those red envelopes were generous. The company's bound to thrive more and more. Sophia Kim smiled and replied to each of them warmly. Before stepping into the elevator, she asked casually, "I put a gold bar engraved with my and Assistant Wang's names into the biggest red envelope. Who ended up with it?" There was a pause. Someone replied, "Assistant Wang picked it, but he didn't keep it. He left it in your office." Sophia's smile faltered slightly. So George was still angry with her. Once inside the elevator, she immediately pressed the button for George's floor. But as soon as she stepped out, she saw several people packing up outside his office. "Who told you to touch his things?" Sophia frowned. "George has OCD. He hates people moving his stuff. Put everything back immediately." One assistant hesitated, glancing at Sophia and then at Makoto behind her, before replying, "President Kim, these were things Assistant Wang left behind. He said he didn't want them. The new assistant starts tomorrow. We have to clear the office today." Sophia's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean, he didn't want them?" She hurried into the office. Half of it was already emptied. Left behind was the racing car model she had once gifted him. Panic gripped her chest like a blade. She grabbed the assistant's arm and demanded, "Where did he go? What do you mean these were the things he didn't want?" The assistant seemed just as surprised and cautiously asked, "President Kim, didn't you sign his resignation yourself? Everything's processed and finalized." Why did she look like she had no idea George was leaving? But hadn't she brought her Newman to the celebration just days ago? Everyone saw that photo. I didn't know it was his resignation. Sophia suddenly stopped speaking. She remembered now, a month ago, HR had handed her a document to sign. She'd been on the phone at the time and didn't check whose resignation it was. She had always been sure George wouldn't leave. So when had he started planning his exit? Hadn't she already been trying to make up for her mistakes? Then why didn't he even say goodbye? Suddenly remembering something, Sophia grabbed the assistant again. Were you the one who brought the dessert to the campsite earlier?" Her heart thumped in her chest. The assistant shook his head. "It was Assistant Wang. I had something urgent, so he helped me deliver it." It was George. Then, he must have known she had lied. She had only wanted to reconnect with Makoto, and had lied because she didn't want George to overthink things. Panic set in hard. She should have realized, no one but George would remember her preferences so clearly. If only she'd trusted her instinct and chased after him back then, would there have been another chance? Why did she come back to the office first? She had always believed George loved her too much to leave. Even if he saw her with Makoto, so what? It's not like she had done anything with Makoto. George always forgave her in the end. He had never truly been angry, but this time, he had really left. Sophia took a deep breath, then looked at Makoto beside her, no longer in the mood for small talk. If you're free, come with me. Help me explain everything to him. Makoto's charming, fox-like eyes narrowed slightly. He smiled faintly and said, George, who's that? I don't know him. The one you met at the wedding, my boyfriend. Makoto stepped closer and looked down at her. Oh, him. Sophia, don't you think he looks a little like me? When I was abroad, I heard rumors you were always looking for men with moles under their eyes. So all this time, you were just trying to replace me. If he was just a stand-in, why should I explain anything? Now that I'm back. Sophia stepped back, dodging his hand. She stared at him, voice firm. George isn't a substitute. He's my boyfriend, the one who's been with me for 10 years. With that, she turned and walked away, determined to find George, behind her. Makoto gave a mocking smile. 10 years later, Sophia was still the same. Just like back then, she dumped him for another man, only to regret it later and try to win him back. She only ever realized what mattered after it was gone. Her heart was like a hedgehog, covered in spikes labeled important people, but the one who answered her call. How much of her love was truly his? Chapter 10. Makoto used to believe he was the most important person in Sophia's heart. They had grown up together, childhood friends with a bond that ran deep. But during their school years, while they were dating, Sophia fell for someone else. He couldn't accept the betrayal, so he chose to leave the country. And Sophia? She began obsessively searching for people who looked like him, even overseas. Makoto had heard of George, a race car driver. Sophia liked that confident, free-spirited charm he had. Rumor had it, the two of them had been in a flirtatious entanglement for 5 years before finally getting together. And George, in order to be with the woman he loved, gave up his racing career just to support her. Makoto thought, perhaps Sophia had finally learned how to truly love someone. But all it took was one glimpse of him, and she threw herself at him, tossing her boyfriend aside. He felt tainted by it. He didn't want her, but because of his reappearance, George left. The thing Makoto had once hated most was the third party who slipped between him and Sophia. And now, ironically, he had become that very person, the third party between Sophia and George. How utterly ridiculous. Sophia rushed back to their villa the moment she left the office, but standing outside the door, she suddenly felt afraid. Afraid George wasn't there. Afraid she had really lost him. Afraid that inside, like his office, everything had already been packed away. But she was also afraid that he was there. Afraid to see the disappointment in his eyes. Afraid he'd ask why she had lied to him. Sophia bit her lip, then opened the door and stepped in. Eyes scanning the living room. Everything was still in place. Even the lilies she loved were still in the vase, ones George had picked up for her. But their petals were starting to wither, some fallen onto the table. George had always made sure the flowers in the house were fresh. Even her girlfriends used to envy her. Life isn't the same with just anyone, one of them had once said. Look at George. He gives you security and romance. You really ought to cherish him. So why hadn't he changed the flowers this time? Did it mean he hadn't come home at all? Panic surged through her. She dashed toward the bedroom, calling out his name. George, George, are you home? Don't hide from me. Come out. I can explain everything. I will explain everything. The bedroom hadn't changed, but Sophia's heart was now fully in chaos. Hadn't she asked the new furniture to be delivered, specifically flown in from Japan? Then why was it still the same? Just then, her phone rang. She thought it was George, and hurried to answer it. But it was the airport logistics department. Miss Kim, these furniture pieces have been flying back and forth. Do you want them or not? Of course I want them, Sophia snapped. I already told you to deliver them, and I paid so much. Why is my bedroom still the same? The staff member sounded flustered. Well, the gentleman said he didn't want them. He refused everything and sent it all back. That's why I'm calling, to confirm what you want to do. It felt like a stone had slammed into Sophia's skull. Her knees went weak. I want them. After hanging up, Sophia began checking every corner of the villa. George's clothes were gone. His toiletries had been thrown in the trash. The gifts he gave her, missing. Even the ceramic tableware they had made together, gone. With each item that disappeared, her heart grew colder. She stood in the middle of the living room and remembered the day they moved in. George had decorated every part of their home. Even the sink had her favorite scented oils arranged neatly. Big furniture, tiny decor, he had cared about everything. She once asked him why he was so meticulous. Because this is our home, he said. I want it to be warm and beautiful. She had laughed and hugged him from behind. Then I'll run the company well. And when we get married, I'll buy the biggest estate as our wedding house. We'll plant your favorite bellflowers all over the garden. George, I can't wait for our future together. George's eyes had been so bright back then. He held her like a child and asked, "Are you really going to stay with me forever? We'll never break up, right? Of course, we'll always be together." She had never imagined breaking up with George. A life without him, she couldn't accept that. She still remembered how they once promised to have 2 kids, a boy with his surname, a girl with hers. She had planned that once they were engaged, she would stop playing around and love him with all her heart. She would become a good wife, a good mother. But now, none of that would ever happen. George didn't want anything anymore, not even her. Sophia shut her eyes in anguish, and then suddenly, knock knock. The sound of knocking echoed through the house. "It's George. He came back, didn't he?" Chapter 11. After leaving the company, I drove to the fully furnished apartment I had rented. Everything about this place was great, except it was too big, too empty. I tried to calm myself and not think about anything related to Sophia, but messages still came through on WeChat. "President Kim found out you resigned." Her face turned pale instantly. "George, I feel like President Kim still loves you." These 2 lines made me laugh bitterly. If it were in the past, I would have been happy to hear that. But now, all I wanted was a good night's sleep. The next morning, just as I was heading to report to the venture capital firm, I received a call from an unknown number. I answered, and on the other end came Sophia's choking voice. "George, it's me. I've been kidnapped. Please come save me. They said they only want you. Please, save me." Her words made my heart tighten instantly. I instinctively wanted to ask where she was, but then I remembered. Last year, she had once faked being kidnapped just to impress a bartender she liked. I had sped across town, so frantic I even fell down a flight of stairs, ending up bruised and battered, only to walk in on her clinking glasses with another man. She pointed at my miserable state and laughed. "See, I told you I'm George's weakness. He's madly in love with me. If I'm ever in danger, he'll show up within 30 minutes, no matter where he is." Back then, I felt like a clown, like an absolute fool. But later, when she called again saying she was hurt, I still rushed over without hesitation, only to be deceived once more. I knew, right now, Sophia was definitely with Makoto. Maybe she just wanted to show Makoto how cheap and pathetic I looked. "Sophia." I gripped my phone tightly. "Is this game really that fun? I've already resigned. I've moved out. Can we leave each other some dignity?" Before she could respond, I hung up and immediately blocked her number. I went straight to the venture capital office and successfully started the job, but in the middle of the morning, someone knocked on my office door and came in. Vice President Wang. "President Kim from Pulin was in an accident. Word is she was kidnapped and just rescued. She's badly injured." I shot to my feet, a flash of pain crossing my eyes. "Is her life in danger? Have the police solved the case?" The person shook their head. "It's better to check at the hospital. After all, you and she," because Pulin was our competitor. The venture capital firm knew about my past with Sophia. From a humanitarian standpoint, it made sense to visit her. I picked up my car keys, ready to leave, but then I stopped. "She doesn't need me anymore," I said calmly. "Today's my first day at work. I just want to focus on my job. Thank you for telling me. From now on, Pulin and we are just business rivals." I pretended not to care, but my tightly clenched fists betrayed me. Soon, people from Pulin also messaged me on WeChat, informing me of the kidnapping. Apparently, it was Makoto who noticed Sophia was missing and called the police, which led to her being found. We heard it was an old flame who kidnapped her, someone who loved her too much and turned obsessive. The kidnapper didn't even want money. He just wanted to meet the man President Kim loved the most. When Makoto called the police, the kidnapper went berserk and stabbed President Kim. She was covered in blood when they got her to the hospital. Makoto even asked for your number in the employee chat group, kind of blaming you for not showing up. "George, do you want to go check on President Kim?" I didn't know how to respond. When I got home after work, as I reached the stairwell, someone suddenly rushed out. Startled, I nearly reacted defensively, until I saw it was Sophia, wearing a hospital gown. Her hand gripped the doorknob tightly, eyes filled with stubbornness and unwillingness to back down. "George, I almost died. Do you know that? Just answer me this, are you still going to care about me or not?" Chapter 12. The first thing I did was look Sophia up and down. Aside from some gauze wrapped around her shoulder, she didn't seem injured anywhere else, but she pointed to the area over her heart. "Do you know how much this hurts? When you hung up on me and didn't come to save me, it felt worse than dying. George, do you really have the heart to see me hurt? I already know why you left. It's because of that photo, isn't it? I can explain, Makoto and I. There's nothing between us anymore." Even now, she still thought I left because of a photo, because of one Makoto. But in the past 10 years, how many Makotos had there been around her? I didn't want to say more. I just told Sophia to go back to the hospital quickly. "You still care about me, don't you?" But I had already opened the door, ready to go inside, only for Sophia to shove it wide open. She followed me in, grabbing my arm tightly, Her palm was burning hot. "George, come with me to the hospital. Or, let's just go home. I'm not that badly hurt. We can go home together." She took a deep breath, her voice hoarse and trembling. "This time, I was wrong. George, I swear to you, promise you, I'll never get involved with another man again." I had heard vows like that too many times over the last 5 years. I even gaslit myself into believing that maybe I wasn't attractive enough. That's why Sophia kept falling for others. So I forgave her, again and again. But each time, she crossed the line even more. She took my love and kindness for granted. And I, in this whole process, was bruised and broken inside. Eventually, I had to ask myself, was love like this even worth continuing? My heart is made of flesh. It feels pain. It suffocates. And I've given Sophia more chances than I can count. What's missed is missed. I don't want to be with her anymore. Just like that bright-eyed girl at 18, standing under the sun, red-eyed and telling me, "Don't forgive the 28-year-old Sophia." I brushed her hand off, saying all this now, it's too late. I just don't care anymore. Even as I said it, it felt like needles piercing my heart, but I held on and said what I truly felt deep down. "I don't love you anymore, Sophia. It's over between us." Those 2 sentences shattered Sophia's pride completely. Like lightning striking her heart, it hurt so badly she didn't know how to react. For a moment, Sophia's mind went blank. It was like all the blood in her body had been frozen. Just as I was about to close the door, she shouted my name. "I don't believe you don't love me." Her eyes locked onto mine. "Do you even know what you're saying? Calm down, George." But I said nothing. My silence told her everything, that I had truly made up my mind. If it were before, I would have been comforting her by now. "George." Sophia's voice began to tremble. "Give me a reason. Why are you breaking up with me? If you don't explain, I won't leave." Suddenly, I felt exhausted. Back when I wanted us to go home together, she had walked away without looking back. And now, she was acting all emotional and devoted. "Sophia, I think I've made myself very clear. I don't love you anymore. If you didn't hear me, I can say it again and again, until you finally accept it. I don't love you anymore. You and I, we're done." Every word was like shattered glass stabbing into Sophia's heart. She stumbled backward, whispering to herself in disbelief. But what greeted her was me pushing her out the door. She stared at me, unable to believe it. The 2 of us stood on either side of the threshold. One inside, one outside. So close in distance, yet separated by a universe. "Sophia, I won't be going back to the company. My position's already been filled. Also, as for our relationship, I'm officially breaking up with you. From now on, you and I will have nothing to do with each other. Let's not meet again." I forced a smile. After all, we work at rival companies. It wouldn't look good for me. I looked away, and as her eyes filled with redness and disbelief, I closed the door. 10 minutes later, a sudden downpour began. Someone downstairs was shouting my name. Sophia was standing in the pouring rain, staring up at my lit-up window. That proud, untouchable woman, for the first time, looked utterly miserable. Chapter 13. My heart was a mess of emotions. In our relationship, Sophia had always been the one in control, but now, she was willing to lower herself just to beg me to come home. Her shoulder was still injured, and after just going through a kidnapping, if she stayed out in the heavy rain all night, something bad could definitely happen. I picked up my phone and sent her a message. "There's no need to do this. I don't regret a single decision I've made." But Sophia was still out there, waiting. Cruelly, I hardened my heart and simply pulled the curtains shut. We had broken up. How long she chose to stand out there was no longer my concern. The moment Sophia saw the curtains close, her hesitation turned into anger. A flood of thoughts overwhelmed her heart, mixed with the unbearable humiliation of making herself so small for a man. She didn't lack admirers, but George was different. Even so, after all she had done, how could George not come down to see her? Just once. 20 minutes passed. Sophia still didn't see the curtains move again. Her anger and sense of injustice deepened. So what if we broke up? George will regret it sooner or later. There's no way he won't come back. Inside the apartment, I paced back and forth for a long while. Eventually, I gritted my teeth, grabbed an umbrella, and went downstairs. But downstairs, Sophia was already gone. I let out a self-mocking laugh. So this was what her so-called staying for me amounted to. Just 20 minutes. The hand gripping the umbrella loosened. I stood there in the rain, telling myself, this is the last time I act on impulse. I dropped the umbrella, along with the last shred of sympathy I had left for her. After that night, Sophia disappeared from my world completely, as if she had accepted the breakup and severed all ties with me. For the first time, I felt truly free to embrace a new life. Following the advice of the venture capital chairman, I returned to the world of racing, this time managing the racing design department. I threw myself into work. Still, in the quiet hours of the night, memories of the past would sneak in. Not because I missed Sophia's love, but because I regretted how 10 years ended like that. People say time heals all wounds, but I feared it might take another 10 years just to forget her, so I poured even more energy into my career. Eventually, I was promoted from deputy director to full manager of the design department. I was no longer her assistant. I was Manager Wang. Though the work was more demanding, I preferred it that way. It helped me forget how deeply, how devotedly, I once loved someone. Time flew. In the blink of an eye, more than half a year had passed. During this time, I worked hard on myself, traveling, bungee jumping, making new friends, learning new languages, redesigning cars, winning awards, and even entering 2 racing competitions, both of which I won. I stayed low profile, refused interviews, turned down offers from rival companies, no matter how high the salary. The venture firm, in return, treated me even better. Today, I bought a seaside apartment. After signing the contract, I dove back into work. The racing design community had been buzzing about a young genius, a 23-year-old prodigy whose designs had real soul. My goal, sign her. If I succeeded, I'd be a shoo-in for the general manager position of the racing division. Today's meeting had to go well. Her name was Willow, and she lived in the most luxurious villa district in the city center. Just as I got out of the car and approached the area, a red sports car sped past me. Out of instinct, I turned to look, and froze. That was Sophia's car. I had no idea why she was here. It had been nearly a year since I'd seen her this close. Strangely, I didn't feel anything. After a moment's silence, I continued searching for Willow's villa, but maybe I was distracted, or maybe the villas all looked too similar. I ended up walking in circles and wasting time. Finally, I found it. Just as I was about to ring the bell, the front door suddenly opened. I was ready to introduce myself, but someone stepped out. I instinctively took a step back, and found myself face to face with Sophia's deep, unreadable gaze. She was here to meet Willow too. Poulin. Were they also trying to sign Willow? 1,000 thoughts raced through my head, but I kept my face expressionless. What I didn't expect was for Sophia to suddenly speak. Makoto wants to pursue me, she said calmly, but I didn't say yes. Chapter 14. Sophia said those words as if to prove something to herself, to prove that she was no longer the woman she used to be. But George didn't even look at her. It left her dazed. She couldn't remember. Had it been a month? 3 months? A year? She only knew one thing. She had been waiting all this time for George to come back for her. That rainy night, she returned to the hospital pretending nothing had happened. But that very night, she developed a fever. In a haze, Makoto appeared, offering to take care of her. She turned him away. All she could think about was George. She picked up her phone, wanting to tell him she had a fever. Her wound was infected. She wished he would come see her, but every message she sent returned with nothing but a string of red exclamation marks. Sophia couldn't accept it. She struggled with the pain, even considered running back out into the storm, fever and all, just to ask George for forgiveness. But she had already thrown away her dignity once. Could she really do it again? Sophia forced herself to hold back. Her pride and ego told her, he's just a boyfriend, just an assistant. You can find another. There were plenty of men in the world. And yet, when Makoto showed up again and asked her to start over, Sophia still said no. I know you were hurt when we broke up, Makoto said. So why won't you be with me? Sophia snapped, irritated, not even realizing the guilt buried in her tone. I haven't forgotten George. I just don't want a relationship. Okay, I wasn't hurt or anything. George isn't irreplaceable. I'll forget him completely. The first month after the breakup, the housekeeper still hadn't learned how to make George's seafood congee. Sophia went through housekeeper after housekeeper. Each one looked troubled. This kind of seafood prep takes forever, just for one bowl of porridge. Miss Kim, don't make things hard for a worker like me. None of them had the patience. But George, he had taken the time to get it perfect. After that, Sophia stopped eating congee altogether. By the 3rd month, she still couldn't sync well with her new assistant. One day, she finally snapped. How did George even work with you? You're completely useless. The assistant, too young and unaware of their history, couldn't help but retort. If George was so great, why did you fire him? Sophia was speechless, because it wasn't her who let him go. It was George, who didn't want her anymore. 6 months after the breakup, Sophia still couldn't help but mention his name. She'd pass a flower shop and suddenly call out, George, look, white lisianthus, your favorite flower. But when she turned around, no one was there. On nights with meteor showers, she would whisper into the wind, wishing on a shooting star is super effective. George, let's wish to never be apart. Okay. But only the wind replied. Even at her high school reunion, I didn't show up. Sophia, frustrated, lost her temper. Who ordered this dish? George is allergic to mushrooms. He can't eat this. Everyone turned to look at her, confused. A mutual friend tried to comfort her. George isn't here. You two have been over for a long time. Sophia, you need to let go. That's when it finally hit her, like waking from a long dream. But that realization turned into rage. Like someone had touched a raw nerve. She flipped the table, broke things, unleashing all the pain and fury inside her, as if destroying the scene could somehow erase the fact that I wasn't there. But instead, she found herself thinking about George more and more. George really didn't want her anymore. All this time, he hadn't come back. Sophia had never imagined life could be so hard. She had redecorated her villa exactly like before. She even brought home a bouquet of lilies every day. Nothing had changed, except George was gone. Sophia felt like a flower whose roots had lost their nourishment, slowly wilting, dying. Every night, she had to use medication just to sleep. She missed George so badly. She even resorted to superstition, paying for rituals in hopes he'd change his mind. Her last shred of self-respect wouldn't allow her to reach out to him. But every day, she prayed he'd appear. And now, he was really standing right in front of her. Sophia instinctively reached out to grab his arm. But then she heard me speaking to the butler beside her. Hello, I'm George, manager of the venture capital racing design department. Just like that, he completely ignored her, treated her like air. Chapter 15. Sophia finally snapped out of her daze. She couldn't hold it in and softly reminded, Designer Lou is sick. You won't be able to see her today. That sentence confirmed what I suspected. She had come for Willow, too. I finally glanced at Sophia, but said nothing. She bit her lip. Then the butler spoke up. Apologies, Mr. Wong. Our young lady is indeed unwell and currently resting. Perhaps you can come back another day. Sick? If that was the case, it really wasn't the right time to discuss business. But I was in a tough competition with another manager. If I could sign Willow, I'd secure the promotion to general manager of the racing division. If I left now, what if the rival manager succeeded first? As I was thinking of what to do, a housemaid came rushing over, visibly panicked. Oh no, the young ladies climbed up a tree again. I was completely stunned. Apologies, Mr. Wong. We're truly unable to entertain guests today. Please, the butler urged, trying to see me out. That's when I asked, is Miss Willow allergic to anything? The butler shook his head but rushed off before I could press further. Sophia looked like she wanted to keep talking to me, but I had already turned and walked away. She stood there, both frustrated and helpless. What she didn't know was that less than 30 minutes later, I returned. This time, I carried a small bag in my hand and rang the doorbell. The butler looked even more conflicted. Mr. Wong, I'm sorry, but the young lady isn't seeing visitors today. Her condition isn't good. I know, I interrupted, raising the dark-colored bag slightly. But I brought a gift. I think Miss Lou will be interested, because it's alive. The butler was about to refuse again, but a soft, drawn-out voice echoed from inside. Let him in. I curved my lips into a faint smile and followed the butler into the villa. He didn't lead me inside the house. Instead, we walked through the courtyard into the backyard. A breeze passed through. Suddenly, I heard the faint jingling of a bell above my head. I looked up, and there, nestled in the thick canopy, sat a girl in a flowing white dress. She dangled her legs, the tiny bell on her ankle ringing with every swing. She lowered her head to look down at us. Her long, black hair hung gently over her shoulders. When I saw Willow's face clearly, my eyes lit up. Backlit by sunlight, she was framed by a soft, glowing aura. Her beauty was indescribable, but her expression remained blank and cold, as if nothing in this world could catch her interest. I was afraid to breathe too hard, lest I disturb her stillness. Eventually, the butler broke the silence. Miss, please come down. What if you fall again? Willow's voice drifted down, just like her appearance. Pleasant to the ear, but distant and cool. What did you bring? What's the living thing? I glanced at the anxious butler, then replied, come down and I'll show you. Willow said nothing more. She tilted her head, looking into the distance. The butler below was clearly frantic. I walked over and lowered my voice to him. Moments later, the tree branches were empty. Only the soft jingling of her bell remained. Then, woof, a small bark broke the silence. Willow looked down. From the dark bag, a small ball of fluffy white fur slowly poked its head out. A Maltese puppy, not far off. The housemaid gasped in delight. She really came down. Every time she's sick, she hides up there for days. Mr. Wong, how did you even think to bring her a dog? Before answering, I asked another question. Does Miss Willow have a severe emotional disorder or depression? The butler instantly grew alert, until he heard what I said next. I recognized the signs because my mother went through the same thing. I know how painful it is when it flares up. That's why I brought a dog. It's not just any dog, it's a trained emotional support companion. It helps ease anxiety and stabilizes moods. My thoughtfulness and empathy left the butler full of gratitude, thanking me repeatedly. Under the phoenix tree nearby, Willow gently picked up the Maltese puppy and turned to look in our direction. She parted her lips slightly and spoke in a soft voice. Go ahead. Tell me, what do you want from me? Chapter 16. I was finally invited to sit inside the villa. Willow clearly liked the little dog. She held it tightly in her arms and wouldn't let go. Though her face still didn't show any sign of a smile, I didn't rush to bring up the contract. I wanted to leave a good impression first. It would help with any future cooperation. Give the puppy a name, I said gently. It'll be with you from now on. But Willow's gaze dimmed. No, it'll die. It could die at any time. Right now. It's healthy, curled up in your arms. It's only 5 months old, I replied. My voice as soft and calm as I could manage. I knew how fragile someone with depression could be during an episode. At times like this, patience was everything. We all die one day. It's something we can't avoid, but what we can do is live well while we're here. Just like this little one, small as it is, it still has a long life ahead. You know, I once heard a story. If you give an animal a name, in its next life, it will become human and it'll come find you again. It's true, why not give it a try? From now on, it's part of your family. Even if you climb trees again, you won't be alone. The coldness on Willow's face slowly began to fade, especially since the pup had been professionally trained as an emotional support animal. Sensing her mood, it licked her palm and nuzzled her with its soft, fluffy head. Her eyes softened. Then you name it for me, she said. My smile froze for a second. It's your family now. I shouldn't overstep, but you're the one who gave it to me. You have to name it, she said, tilting her head slightly. There was no emotion in her tone, only a quiet command. I let out a helpless smile and gave it some thought. Let's call him Max. Max Lou. What do you think? Willow looked down. Why that name? Because I believe Miss Lou is extraordinary. That's my wish for you, too. She rubbed Max's little head. Then, finally, she smiled. You made me happy. So go ahead. Tell me what you came for. I slid the contract across the table. Before I could even present venture capital's offer, Willow had already spoken. So it's a signing deal. Okay, I agree. Just as she was about to sign, she picked up a piece of chocolate beside her and tried to feed it to Max. I panicked and rushed to stop her. Max can't eat chocolate. Willow looked confused. But I can eat it. Why can't he? He's family, not just a dog. I was speechless. Yes, but it'll make him sick. Then, milk, nuts, cherries. I put a hand to my forehead. How did she manage to name all the foods dogs shouldn't eat? You've never owned a dog before, have you? Willow fell silent, lowering her head. She stopped talking altogether, but she hadn't signed the contract yet. Thinking quickly, I offered. Okay, I'll take care of Max for you. Just sign first. Her face lit up slightly with an idea. All right then, you have to come here every day until you teach me how to take care of Max properly. And just like that, Willow signed her name. I had no choice but to agree. As I left the villa, I spotted a familiar red sports car. It pulled up and stopped right in front of me. Sophia stepped out, her face a storm of mixed emotions, but mostly, it was anger in her eyes. You went to see Willow again. Did you get to talk to her? George, how could you spend more than 2 hours alone with another woman? Did you forget what you once promised me? I'm sorry, I cut her off calmly. It's you who forgot. Miss Kim, we broke up a long time ago. Who I spend time with now has nothing to do with you. Chapter 17. My direct and cutting words stunned Sophia. Her expression turned blank, and her eyes reddened slightly. She instinctively stepped closer, but I took a few steps back. Miss Kim, as a representative of venture capital, I ask that you keep your distance. My deliberate coldness only made Sophia more unwilling to give up. As if suddenly remembering something, I added, oh right, I almost forgot. We have nothing left to talk about. The affection that once filled my eyes was completely gone. And that forced Sophia to face the cruel truth. All the pain, frustration, and buried emotions of the past 6 months exploded in that moment. How can you say there's nothing to talk about after 10 years? Even if you don't, I do, George. But for that, I need to see you. I need a chance to speak to you. She lowered her voice, adding a trace of pleading. George, can't we just talk, just once, properly? I couldn't help but find it amusing. Sophia, I don't recall you ever being the type to cling to an ex-boyfriend. Aren't you worried people might laugh if they saw you like this? Her expression instantly darkened. She stared at me silently, but I continued. You've never been short on men. Why obsess over me? Don't tell me this is your repentant sinner turns back moment, and now you want to rekindle an old flame. It's pathetic. Her face turned even colder. She got back into her car without another word, choosing to leave with what pride she had left. But just before she drove off, she bit her lip and said, George, you're only treating me like this because you know I still like you. You'll regret it someday. I watched her red sports car disappear down the road, and all I could do was laugh. There wasn't a shred of emotion left in me. I had no idea what I said that made Sophia misunderstand so badly. That she thought I would regret this. That she thought she still liked me. But did she really understand what liking someone even meant? I looked away and pushed the thought from my mind. Returning to the company, news of my successful signing with Willow brought joy to the entire executive team, not just because of her talent, but because one of her car design drafts was already valued at over $80 million. Leadership called me in for a one-on-one meeting. You truly are the one I had high hopes for. In 3 months, we'll be the undisputed winner of the racing design competition. From now on, Willow is your responsibility. Whatever you do, don't let a genius like her get poached by another firm. I smiled and nodded in agreement. I could tell Willow genuinely liked Max. Even if other companies copied the gesture and gave her a pet, she wouldn't accept it so easily. I planned to visit regularly, as promised, to accompany both Max and Willow until she could take care of him on her own, and until she successfully entered the upcoming competition. But the next day, just as I was about to head to Willow's place, an emergency international meeting pulled me away. I had no choice but to ask a dog-owning colleague from the company to fill in for me. Then rushed off to the meeting. I didn't expect that by the time it ended, I'd have over a dozen missed calls on my phone. Another call came in. I picked up immediately, and then I heard, "George, there's a problem. Miss Willow wants to cancel the contract." My heart dropped. Panic set in instantly. "Why? What happened?" I asked urgently. Miss Lou opened the door, saw it wasn't you, and kicked me out. She said if we never intended to take her seriously, we shouldn't have made promises to begin with. My colleague paused, then added, "She kept calling you a liar." "George, honestly, I think she's canceling the contract because she's mad you didn't show up." Chapter 18. She really got this angry just because of that, and now she's refusing to cooperate. I had no choice but to speed up my workload. It wasn't until 2 p.m. that I finally arrived at Willow Lou's villa. As soon as I entered the courtyard, the butler came over. "Well, look who finally showed up." "Busy man, Manager Wong." "Oh, almost forgot, Miss Willow's been waiting since noon. She hasn't even had lunch." His words were sharp, and his gaze felt like it could burn a hole in me. I gave a bitter smile, only to have my shoulder gently patted. "Miss Willow isn't like others. Her depression is, well." He stopped mid-sentence and didn't continue. I could only head toward the backyard on my own. Sure enough, she was up in the tree, again, and poor Max had been left on the ground, barking anxiously, desperate to join his owner. When Willow saw me, a layer of coldness spread across her face. "Get out. You're not allowed to be here." She looked furious, but her voice held more grievance and hurt than actual anger. It was nearly 3 p.m. She still hadn't eaten, and I was seriously worried she'd give herself a stomachache. She lowered her head, refusing to speak. She looked frail, pitiful, and something about that tugged at my heart unexpectedly. There was an emotion I couldn't quite name, but I felt it swelling inside me. Under the tree, Max continued whining restlessly. Suddenly, Willow snapped. "Stop barking. What good will that do? Do you think he cares about you? He just says nice things, then disappears without warning, and you still wag your tail at him. You're all the same liars. If you're just going to leave, why show up at all?" I frowned slightly. I didn't know her past, but it was clear she had been deeply hurt before. Worried I'd push her further, I kept my tone gentle. "Will you come down, please? I'm a great cook. Let me make something delicious for you. How's that?" Willow didn't answer, but her eyes shifted to look at me. "Really? I'll cook. Want to try it?" She gave a skeptical hum. "You cook? I don't believe it," but I replied confidently. "My skills are on par with a 5-star chef. If you don't believe me, come test it yourself." Still full of doubt, she finally slid down from the tree. "Fine, I'll try it, just to humor you." Butler Diego took the rest of the staff away, leaving the villa with just the two of us. Half an hour later, Willow sat in front of what I proudly called a feast. A bowl of oddly flavored noodles and 2 poached eggs. You said you cook like a 5-star chef. What is this?" She was so baffled she actually laughed, lifting a leafy green with her chopsticks. "I don't even like bok choy." "You're such a fraud." Pouting in frustration, she still managed to make me laugh. "That's not bok choy, it's fennel. You don't even know that. What are you going to do when your personal chef's not around? Starve?" I patted her like an elder giving advice. "That's why you need to learn, kiddo. Learn to make this one bowl of noodles, and at least you'll be able to take care of yourself." I didn't know whether a family as wealthy as hers would ever be without a chef, but seeing how pale and hungry she looked, I couldn't help wanting to teach her how to care for herself. She let out a small "oh," and surprisingly followed me into the kitchen to learn. Turns out, it wasn't that hard after all. But now that she knew how to cook, would I still get to make meals for her? Willow lowered her head, quietly slurping noodles, her lashes hiding whatever she was feeling inside. The whole afternoon, I stayed with her, teaching her about different types of dog food, grains, vegetables. We even designed a doghouse for Max together. When I finally left, Diego and the others returned home. Not long after, Willow brought out a bowl of noodles and proudly announced, "This is called fennel. It tastes kind of weird, but it's really good." Diego looked surprised, then his eyes turned a little misty. "Wait, did you make this yourself, miss?" Willow nodded. "George taught me." Diego looked at her transformation, quietly wiping away a tear. That girl who once locked herself away, who had hurt herself, and pushed everyone away, was beginning to change, as if someone had finally found the key to unlock her heart, and the name of that key was George. Chapter 19. Fennel noodles, that was the first thing Willow learned to make. Building a doghouse, that was the second thing she worked hard to master. I quickly discovered that Willow was incredibly smart. No matter what she tried, she picked it up almost instantly. But strangely, she seemed to lack the most basic common knowledge. Had no one in the Liu family ever taught her? I also noticed that sometimes Willow would suddenly fall silent, shutting herself off, but whenever I arrived, she'd light up and run out to show me what new thing she'd learned. Over the next month, as we spent more time together, I got to know her more and more. Willow's world was simple: designing race cars, taking care of Max, spending time with Diego and me, George. Most of the time, she was like a child, proudly showing off the toys she made for Max. In front of me, she could truly be herself, and I, for the first time in a long while, felt needed. But she still hadn't started designing anything. With only 2 months left before the competition, I was getting anxious. That morning, I brought over her favorite pastries to check in. The moment I stepped inside, Diego rushed over in a panic. Miss locked herself in again. She didn't eat or drink anything all night. We couldn't reach you. Your phone was off. That's when I remembered. After yesterday's late meeting, I had left my phone charging in the study and hadn't noticed it was off this morning. What happened? Wasn't her condition improving? Diego's eyes welled with tears. That man came by last night. The moment she saw him, everything went downhill. Suddenly, I really wanted to know what exactly had happened to Willow in the past. But now wasn't the time for questions. First, I had to get her out of that room. No matter how many times Diego called her name from the outside, there was no response, until I said, "Do you want some of my fennel noodles?" Only then, there was a sound from the bedroom. Click, the door unlocked. I rushed in, only to see Willow curled up on the floor, barefoot, her face streaked with tears. Scattered beside her were broken pieces of a toy model. She looked like a shattered porcelain doll. I walked toward her, and before I could say anything, she spoke. "George, I was assaulted in the past. Do you think I'm dirty?" That question, it stunned me, but I quickly composed myself. Without a word, I grabbed a tissue and gently wiped away her tears. Willow kept her head down, then pointed to the pieces of the model on the floor. "It was supposed to be a race car. I wanted to finish it and give it to you, but I just couldn't get it right." Tears welled in her eyes again, her voice trembling. "George, am I useless? Someone like me, maybe I never should have." "Willow," I gently interrupted her, reaching out my hand. "Let me take you to the bed, all right?" She shook her head. She didn't want to leave what she saw as a safe place. "Then let me ask you something. Okay, do you think we're friends?" Without hesitation, Willow nodded. "You're my only friend." Only friend. Those 2 words made me feel an overwhelming sense of compassion for this pure, fragile girl. "Then why would I ever look down on you?" I said softly. "It's like this model here. If I couldn't finish building it, would you call me stupid?" Willow shook her head. "No, because I know it's only a matter of time. You will finish it, because you're George, and the same goes for you." I looked into her eyes and spoke sincerely. "I believe in you, because you're Willow. You can finish this model. I'll be here with you. We'll build it together." Willow's eyes brightened noticeably, but then dimmed again. She whispered, "But you'll think I'm dirty, because I didn't let her finish. I brought up the day we first met. Do you remember that day? When I first saw you, I thought you were an angel. You are the purest, most innocent girl in this world." Willow's closed-off heart cracked open just a little. "And this time, sunlight streamed in." She nodded and invited me to help finish the model. When we were done, Willow seemed ready to share a secret buried deep inside her heart. But I spoke first. "Now that's finished, shouldn't we start working on the design drawings? The company is waiting, and we need them for the competition." Willow's expression stiffened. "Design drawings? So, you've been nice to me just for the design drawings. If I didn't know how to design race cars, you wouldn't even be here with me. You wouldn't have given me Max either, right?" I met Willow's questioning gaze. A strange nervousness welled up inside me, and a terrifying thought surfaced in my mind. Could it be that Willow felt something more than friendship for me? Chapter 20. That thought scared me. Faced with Willow's questioning and tears, I should have comforted her, tried to soothe her, but I stayed silent. "I'm 29 this year. Willow is only 23. She's 6 years younger than me. Willow can be childish. irrational even, but I cannot. I forgot that the Willow now is not the same as before. That closed-off child has long since changed because of my presence. She now follows me to plant flowers. She picks fruit with me. We take Max for walks together. When I'm too tired from work, Willow makes tea for me and cheers me up. We watch sunrises and meteor showers together. Willow calls my name again and again, George, without ever tiring. We even send each other pictures of every meal we eat. When did we start influencing each other's lives? And yet, I only realized it today, but Willow is still so young, just 23, and in my eyes, she's still a child. George, why aren't you answering? That question made me restless. Suddenly, I stood up and, faced with her hopeful gaze, for the first time, I chose to run away. Take care of yourself, we'll talk about the rest later. Without looking back, I left, completely unaware that Willow's eyes behind me had reddened. Max wagged his tail and tried to comfort her, but Willow sobbed. Liar, so you all will leave me. I avoided everything. I couldn't figure out my feelings for Willow, or maybe, I was simply too afraid to think about them. 6 years isn't much, but Willow's purity and innocence made me feel like a greasy old man beside her. After that day, something unspoken hung between us. With only 2 months left before the race design competition, I had no choice but to assign other designers to submit works and manage the contest. I even entered the competition myself. 2 months later, every submission from venture capital made it to the finals, but right before the final round, one of our designs was accused of plagiarism. I rushed to handle it, but it was too late. It seemed like someone had orchestrated everything in advance. Suddenly, we were bombarded by waves of online abuse, not just targeting the designer, but the whole venture capital firm and me personally. A flood of negative news erupted on the internet, triggering a chain reaction. Several investors pulled out. Huge compensation claims crushed me, all because that was the designer I had signed. The chairman stepped in and paid the money from the company's side. But what awaited me was a demotion and endless nights drowning in trivial tasks piled high on my desk. One late night, I finally returned to my apartment around dawn. But someone was sitting by my door, arms folded, head bowed. It was Sophia. My eyes brightened slightly. The sound of my footsteps made her look up. She had waited so long. She had fallen asleep there. She hurried to her feet and whispered, George, I know what happened at Venture Capital. I already found out for you. Then she handed me a USB drive like a treasure. It was another company behind this. They bribed the designer to slander Venture Capital. We tried to poach you before, but you refused. This time you entered the contest, and they were jealous and bitter. So they set this trap in anger. Dark circles shadowed Sophia's eyes. At the end, she quietly and humbly pleaded, So, can we please talk properly now? I haven't slept for 3 days because of you. I didn't want to get too involved. But suddenly, Sophia's vision blurred, and she nearly collapsed. I hurried to steady her, only to be pulled into a tight embrace. Tears soaked my shirt. I knew you still cared about me. You couldn't bear to see me hurt. Sorry, George. I still love you. You love me too, don't you? I said nothing. My silence spoke for me. At the far end of the corridor, the elevator quietly opened and then closed again. Inside the elevator, Willow wept silently, her gaunt face full of despair. Chapter 21. I didn't know Willow had been here, had seen what happened. I looked down at Sophia in my arms, surprised she was crying, repeatedly saying she still loved me. But I don't have any love left for you. That sentence scared Sophia. She kept asking relentlessly, Have you fallen out of love? Have you fallen for someone else? Was everything in our 10 years together a lie? She wouldn't let up, so I had to answer, I haven't fallen out of love. Sophia barely had time to feel relief before I continued. I never stopped loving you, up until I decided to leave. But once I asked for the breakup, everything between us ended, and I will never look back. Sophia's eyes lost all light. You really don't want me anymore? Even after everything I did for you, when I worked myself to the point of collapse and ended up hospitalized, you still won't come back? I nodded seriously and firmly. No, not this lifetime. Tears poured from Sophia's eyes. Her unbearable grief, the kind of despair I had never seen from her before, made me turn my head and push her hand away. I knew it was obsession twisting her thoughts, clinging to the last hope, meaning there'd be more struggles ahead. When she was crying so hard she almost fainted, I finally spoke. I'm going to ask you a few questions. If you can answer them, I'll forgive you. Sophia's eyes flickered with hope. Go ahead. I'll seize this chance to show you my true feelings. But the first question was a dagger. During the 5 years we were together, how many men did you cheat on me with? That brutal question left Sophia speechless, her mouth hanging open, her face instantly drained of color. I smiled bitterly and asked the second question. Tell me, how many times did you stand me up, cancel on me, because of other men? She couldn't answer that either. Last question, what am I allergic to? That question was like a drowning person clutching at a straw. She hurried to answer, biting her tongue in her haste. Mushrooms. I know, it's mushrooms. I closed my eyes, a suffocating feeling spreading inside me, then laughed. I'm allergic to peanuts. You never remember that. The one allergic to mushrooms. Sophia broke out in a cold sweat, realizing too late. It was Makoto who was allergic to mushrooms. She met my cold and disappointed gaze and finally understood. There was no going back between us. You know, when you rushed me home to celebrate your birthday, I'd just undergone major surgery. The doctor told me to contact you, but you said it was nothing, just a minor illness, and pushed me to leave the hospital. Sophia's eyes widened. She stepped back and suddenly remembered that time. She stared at me in disbelief, wanting to ask why I never told her, but I already had. I'd asked her to come to the hospital with me. Sophia tried to explain but could only whisper weakly. I didn't know you were hurt. I thought it was just a minor infection from appendicitis. I let out a cold snort. My gaze grew even colder. Of course you didn't know, because you didn't care. You were too lazy to care. I didn't even know if I would make it out of the operating room alive. That tumor could spread, get worse, and I could die. Did you ever think about how terrified I was inside that operating room, with no one waiting for me outside? My voice rose with every word, ripping open old wounds until they bled anew. Despair completely overwhelmed me. I spent 10 years with you, took care of you for 5. I've been true to my conscience, and true to you, but you trampled on my pride. You forgot I'm human too. How dare you throw my true love into the trash, again and again? When I needed you most, you were with other men. You were cheating on me. For the 2 weeks after my surgery, you were in our bed with other men. And I pushed myself to leave the hospital early, just to celebrate your birthday. What did I get in return? Tell me, what did I get? I couldn't keep my emotions in check, because back then, I had faced death. The surgery report even stated the success rate, only 50%. And the one person I most wanted to see was sleeping in someone else's arms. I gritted my teeth and endured it alone. My love and sacrifice nourished Sophia, but I was being tortured, hollowed out inside. That's why I'm exhausted, snapping out of my memories. I stared at the broken Sophia. Our fate is completely severed, dead ashes that will never ignite again. Let's part on good terms. Chapter 22. My determination was harder than stone. Sophia could only leave in tears. I closed the door behind her, feeling a strange sense of relief. 10 years of habit are really hard to break, like forcibly ripping flesh from my own heart. I forced myself to forget. I didn't want any ties with Sophia anymore, even if that pain took half of my life away. 10 years, I smiled bitterly. Things would get better eventually. I still had many more decades ahead, but life dealt me a heavy blow soon enough. A week later, I suddenly received a message from Diego. He told me that Willow was getting married. I jumped up from my chair. Married? She's only 23. Why would she get married now? Diego's voice was calm. Mr. Wong, isn't she of legal age? What's wrong with getting married? Still, it was a sudden surprise. I wanted to know who the groom was, but I couldn't bring myself to ask. Diego's message said the wedding was just 3 months away. That afternoon, my assistant came in carrying some files. George, what's going on? You made a mistake. Your boss was furious and told you to take some time off. Confused about what I'd done, I turned and saw the contract that was supposed to bear my signature. Instead, it had Willow's name on it. My assistant patted my shoulder to comfort me. This kind of mistake isn't like you. Luckily, no damage was done, but the boss was very angry. And since you've been working so hard lately, consider this a forced break. By the way, Willow hasn't submitted a single design since signing with us. I honestly don't know if signing her was the right choice. Signing her didn't get you promoted to general manager either. I was put on compulsory leave and felt no particular emotion. But hearing my assistant speak like that about Willow suddenly made me angry. If you haven't seen her work, don't slander her. And don't talk behind people's backs. That's just basic respect. My assistant shrugged, muttered an apology, and left the office. But I felt even more confused. I decided not to think about it. Trying hard to calm myself, not wanting to be alone at home, I went to a small, niche ceramics exhibition. Unexpectedly, I saw Willow there. She was sitting quietly in the crafts area, carefully working on a piece. Just 2 months apart, but her long, straight black hair had turned into seaweed-like curls. She was thinner, wearing a red tight dress inappropriate for her age. Her face was made up. In such a short time, she had become a different person. I stopped in my tracks, and at that moment, countless emotions I'd been holding back flooded my heart. I couldn't understand why I was so angry, why I was so eager to see Willow, or why she had been so sensitive and upset about the word design that day. I wanted to know what had happened in these 2 months that changed her, and why she had decided to get married. Willow saw me, and noticed the bag I was carrying. She cleaned her hands and came over first. Long time no see, George. Before I could say a word, Willow asked again, Did you come here to give me a wedding gift? Or are you here to pick out a designer who can replace me? I heard about the plagiarism scandal at Venture Capital's design contest. Why didn't you contact me in those 2 months? How could you know I hadn't made any good designs? You didn't believe me. You thought I was childish. Isn't that ridiculous? One question after another left me speechless, like a bone stuck in my throat. What I finally managed to say was just, that dress doesn't suit you. If you finish the design drawings, you can submit them to the company. Willow fought back her hurt. She still remembered that other woman, the mature and charming one, who George seemed to like. So maybe she could be like that, too. Dress maturely. Pretend to be steady. Even if she wanted to cry, she forced herself to hold it in. Willow gave a bitter smile. Diego doesn't care about me, so why should you? George, who do you think you are? I opened my mouth, but no words came out. I turned to leave, but Willow followed me and grabbed my sleeve. I looked back and met a pair of wet, cautious, and pitiful eyes. George, I was pretending. Please don't go. Okay. In that instant, it felt like my heart reached out a hand and squeezed tight. Chapter 23. Looking at Willow like this, my heart was a tangle of emotions. In the end, I decided to take Willow home, but the house was empty of servants, and even Diego was gone. Willow said Diego had gone out to buy groceries, and she herself poured me some tea. I glanced around and noticed the entire decoration of the house had changed. The previous modern, cool-toned style had been replaced with a red, traditional Chinese design, everywhere celebrating joy and festivity. It was a stark reminder to me, Willow was really getting married. She brought the tea over, but I didn't touch it. If there's nothing else, I'll be going. If your fiancé sees us alone together, then, unexpectedly, she said, George, that woman you love so much, the one from that day. I was stunned. Unbeknownst to me, Willow had seen the moment when Sophia had hugged me. Could this be the reason she was getting married? My heart grew even more chaotic, and all I could do was reply dryly. That woman and I have no relationship. But a faint light appeared in Willow's eyes. Are you serious? I nodded. Absolutely. Watching her happiness, a faint smile involuntarily crept onto my lips, but the joy was soon interrupted by a delivery man bringing wedding dresses. I tried to stay calm and rational as I got up to leave, but Willow stopped me. Don't you want to know who I'm marrying? I really wanted to say I didn't, but I said nothing. Don't you want to know why? George, come with me to my room. I want to tell you a secret. I didn't want to hear it and instinctively hesitated, but Willow's eyes were full of hope. I followed her to the bedroom, and she closed the door behind us. My heart tightened. The next moment, Willow began to take off her dress. I quickly closed my eyes, about to scold this girl, but then I heard her trembling voice. George, open your eyes and look at me. Trust me, okay? My heart pounded wildly, and when I opened my eyes, what I saw was her back, covered in whip marks. Horrific scars spread across her back, and right in the center, a word was painfully etched with needles. A single character, bitch. My gaze darkened instantly. My brain felt numb and stung like I'd been shocked. Every pore on my body ached with pain and sorrow. Those wounds weren't made in one day. Some old scars had faded but were still visible. She had been brutally abused and tortured for more than 5 years. I couldn't hold back any longer, my voice cold as ice. I demanded, who did this to you? Who hurt you? What about Diego? Did he know? Why didn't he call the police? Willow remained surprisingly calm. She took my hand and placed it gently over her scars. Actually, they don't hurt anymore. These wounds were supposed to be my lifelong secret, but I want to tell you because of them. I've always felt ashamed and afraid to get close to you. The man I'm marrying is my brother. More precisely, my adoptive brother in name only. After being taken in by the Liu family, I lived a few happy years. Mom and Dad loved me, but then, when I became an adult, he assaulted me. My parents died in a plane crash on their way back to the country. They left me forever. I was imprisoned in this villa, shutting myself off until I no longer felt human. Only when I was designing race cars did I feel free. I learned to resist, and because of that, I'm covered in wounds. Diego was left to me by my parents. He protects me fiercely. Plus, now that I have a little fame, my brother dares not bully me too much. He cares about the family reputation, but I didn't want to live. I felt dirty, useless. Mom and Dad promised to always be with me, but they still left. When I was about to end my life, you came along with Max. George, do you know why I loved climbing trees so much? Because sitting up there, I felt close to the sky. I wanted to see heaven, to see my adoptive parents, and ask them to take me away. But after Max and you appeared, I didn't want to die anymore. If I died, what would happen to Max? Willow told her story calmly. Only then did I understand how her illness began. I couldn't understand how such a kind girl could be hurt by that damned monster. She didn't cry, but my eyes welled up. Willow gently tapped the tears on my face and said seriously, they say when you love someone, You hurt for them, you cry for them. George, have you fallen in love with me? But someone like me isn't worthy. I held Willow's hand tightly in mine. No, you are worthy. Willow said nothing, but her eyes reflected only my image. I looked quietly back at her. In that moment, we understood each other's hearts. I admitted, I was moved, but I was also afraid to love someone. I didn't dare take that step. Besides, so, you agreed to marry him because you were afraid he'd hurt you. Unexpectedly, tears welled in Willow's eyes, and she choked out, "No, I'm marrying him willingly." Chapter 24. My heart ached. While Willow was confessing her love for me, she was also preparing to marry that bastard adoptive brother of hers. The way she acted suddenly reminded me of Sophia. That fleeting moment of teenage infatuation at 18 ended up costing me 10 years of my life. I loved so hard, so humbly, but with Willow, I felt what it meant to be loved, to be valued. She needed my protection, and even more, she needed me by her side. But now, what the hell is this? Is she just like Sophia, a woman who changes her heart the moment someone new appears? No, Willow isn't like Sophia. But then, why? Looking into Willow's pure, clear eyes, I didn't have the courage to ask. I gently hugged her. I'm sorry. I'm not capable of loving someone right now. I can't give anyone a wedding. I let go. Tears welled up in Willow's eyes. Still, I added one more line. If you don't marry him, could you give me some time? Willow didn't answer. She just got dressed and wouldn't look at me again. I left. Another week passed without a single word from Willow. During that week, I took part in a competition and won the championship. But on my way home, I was nearly hit by a car. When I got back, I received a message. It was from Sophia. You've pissed off the CEO of the Liu family. George, don't tell me you've actually fallen for Willow Liu. The Liu family, those are people you can't afford to mess with. I'm still waiting for you. If you just turn back, we can still be together. Those two texts made something click in my mind. I blocked the number. That very night, I rushed to the villa and rang the Liu family's doorbell. I didn't care about anything else. I just needed to see Willow. At last, I asked what had been haunting me. Did you agree to marry your brother because he threatened you by using me? Willow's sleepy eyes widened in shock. The next second, she was frantically shaking her head in denial. She didn't expect me to crouch down in front of her and grab her hand. Willow, don't be afraid. Just tell me, you don't want to marry him, right? He knows I've been with you every day. He threatened you with my life, didn't he? Tears instantly fell from Willow's eyes, but she shoved at George. I don't need you meddling in my business. Leave. But I laughed. I was relieved I'd guessed right. I was relieved I hadn't doubted Willow's feelings for me. There really was a girl this foolish in the world, someone who would sacrifice her own happiness for the sake of someone she loved. Willow, do you want to be truly free? Just like how you design race cars, to let them race free on the track. I'll help you. If you trust me, I'll help you. Willow wanted to refuse, but I gently held her face. I once loved someone for 10 years, but she betrayed me. So I buried my true feelings deep inside. But then, I saw another girl's sincerity. It was just like mine back then. I didn't get a happy ending, but I want to give her one. Willow, trust me. Let me take care of this. Willow went from silent resistance to breaking down in tears. She nodded and collapsed into my arms, crying for a long, long time. A few days later, Willow had her passport and a plane ticket in hand. She didn't know how I managed to arrange everything. When she wanted to see me, she heard the news. George was getting married to Miss Kim, Sophia. Willow couldn't believe it. She went to investigate herself, only to witness me getting out of Sophia's car. She didn't dare confront me. She ran back home, only to receive a message from me. I said, I hope you find happiness. So, was granting her freedom the last gift George gave her? With that question in her heart and tears in her eyes, Willow boarded the plane to study abroad. At the same time, I once again pushed Sophia away. I don't need you in my life. Even if I have to crawl, I'll crawl to the airport just to see her off. You're insane. Tears shimmered in Sophia's eyes. You knelt in front of your father for 3 whole days, until your knees were ruined, just so you wouldn't have to marry me. Just so Willow could be free. George, you used to love me. This time, her tears didn't move me at all. I looked her in the eyes and told her clearly, this time, I met someone truly special. But when I finally reached the airport, all I found was a note handed to me by a staff member. It said, thank you, goodbye. Chapter 25. I stood in the wind for a long time. When I finally tried to leave, I collapsed to my knees from the pain of my injured legs. Flashing through my mind was the memory of kneeling before my biological father, begging him for help in exchange for giving up my inheritance rights. But his condition was, I had to marry Sophia. I refused. I knelt under the scorching sun, showing him my unwavering determination. In the end, I won. I earned freedom for Willow. Even as an illegitimate son with no real standing, I was able to help her. And yet, I never got to see her one last time. Maybe Willow will find happiness abroad. Maybe this time. I'll be thinking of her for a very long time. 2 years later, my design studio received an invitation. A major racing car exhibition was being held downtown, and the host was none other than the genius designer returning after 2 years of silence, Willow. Her first show back in the country drew in crowds of enthusiasts and industry elites. I rushed to the venue immediately, but I didn't expect to run into someone completely unexpected, Makoto. We exchanged glances, and surprisingly, greeted each other calmly. He walked beside me and suddenly brought up Sophia. These past 2 years, have you seen her? I answered without hesitation. I cut all ties with her long ago. There's no reason to meet again. Makoto smiled, though his smile carried a trace of bitterness. You're really decisive. When you loved her, you gave her everything, and when you broke up, you never looked back. His words even made me a little curious. So, you're still entangled with Sophia. You two didn't end up together? Makoto gave a small laugh. I thought she'd finally settle down and choose me. Even though I knew she didn't love me anymore, she's the girl I grew up with. I couldn't bear to see her sad. So I stayed by her side. I couldn't help but correct him. What do you mean she didn't love you? Back when she was with me for 5 years, all the guys she cheated on me with, they all looked like you. Even I resemble you a little. Makoto shook his head, then turned to look directly at me. To me, she had a naive, innocent affection, but with you, it was love. George, do you know what? I suddenly envy you because now, she truly, deeply loves you. After you broke up, she became a vegetarian. She never got involved with another man. She lets me stay by her side, but her heart, it's no longer with me. She even refuses to go home. Just so she doesn't have to see me, she stays in that private hospital she built. A hospital dedicated solely to patients with cell tumors. I stopped in my tracks, needing to confirm what I'd just heard. What kind of hospital did you say it was? Makoto explained. 2 years ago, Sophia invested a huge sum to create a free treatment center for people suffering from cell tumors. She once told me, when she was drunk, that everything she's doing now is her way of atoning. One sentence flashed through my mind. Feelings that come too late are cheaper than weeds. This kind of love that came too late, it didn't move me in the slightest. On the contrary, it only filled me with disgust, because now, Makoto is her boyfriend. And yet Sophia is doing it again, falling for someone new, and the moment she gets them, craving the one she already lost. She's doing charity. That's great, I said flatly, but I just hope she learns to appreciate the people around her while she still has them. Makoto gave me a quiet thank you, but it felt like he had made some kind of decision. She only has you in her heart. I know. I've lost. George, should I give up? I shook my head. I don't know, but I do know this. Those who take genuine love for granted will eventually pay the price. Makoto murmured. Sometimes I wonder, if I just stayed with her for 10 years, would she fall in love with me too? I thought he was being melodramatic, but then I saw the look in his eyes. Makoto had figured it out. He just wasn't ready to let go. He was lost in the fog, hoping someone would pull him out. I was lucky. When I was lost, I met Willow. Makoto wasn't as lucky. I closed my eyes briefly, then finally said, Sophia will never love just one person. The one she loves the most is always the one she hasn't gotten yet. That one sentence was enough. If Makoto still insisted on staying by Sophia's side, that was his fate. But his eyes lit up slightly. He gave me a bitter smile and held out his hand. Thank you, George. I hope the next time we meet, we'll both have found our own happiness. I nodded. We said goodbye at the entrance of the exhibition hall. After that day, I never saw Makoto again. Rumor had it, he officially broke up with Sophia, then moved abroad, settling down in New Zealand. Later, I heard faint whispers that Makoto got married. The woman he married loved no one else but him, with all her heart. But that's a story for another time. As for me, the most important thing was to find that friend I hadn't seen in 2 years. Willow. Chapter 26. I stepped into the exhibition hall. What greeted me was a display of all of Willow's creations over the past 2 years. She was born to design. The race cars she created were as free as the wind. From the curves and patterns alone, it was clear. These past 2 years abroad, Willow had been doing really well, but I wasn't. Because Willow never answered my calls. Yet, she sent me messages every single day, telling me to wait for her to come back. It was like she had me on the hook, making my heart itch with longing. If she hadn't suddenly returned to the country, I might have assumed she married some long-haired foreign uncle. I searched all over, but the first person I ran into was Diego. He had Max in his arms. After 2 years, Max had gotten plumper, wagging his butt happily when he saw me. Diego was glad to see me and even sneakily pointed out where Willow was. In front of the interview stage, Willow stood surrounded by dozens of microphones. After 2 years, she had matured a lot, more elegant, more confident, and even more beautiful. Someone asked her why she chose to return today. Because today is Qixi, she replied, Chinese Valentine's Day. So I came back. My eyebrows lifted. Then I heard a reporter ask if she had a boyfriend. Willow didn't speak. She just locked eyes with me in the crowd. I smiled and lowered my head. Then, blending in with the journalists, I imitated them and asked, Miss Liu, why does every race car you design have a white balloon flower on it? Willow's smile was dazzling. Because the person I love, loves that flower. The reporters around us couldn't hold back their excitement. Oh really? Then can we ask, is the person you love here today? Willow didn't answer with words. She simply walked over and pulled me out of the crowd, right in front of everyone. She said clearly, he's here to take me home. I tilted my head and glanced at this bold woman beside me. Our hands were already tightly intertwined, and never let go again. When the exhibition ended, Diego hugged the dog and teased us. Looks like you're a real family now. I was about to reply, but Willow suddenly threw her arms around me. Diego chuckled, covered his mouth, and carried the dog to the car first. But Willow just kept hugging me. She could hear the pounding of my heart. After a long silence, I was the first to speak. Sorry, I didn't call you once in 2 years. That's because you kept blocking me. Willow laughed and pulled away slightly to look at me. Because I didn't dare hear your voice. I was afraid I'd lose control and run back to you, no matter the cost. But I knew you wanted me to be free. You wanted me to be the best version of myself. So I became that person, just to come back to you. I held her hand tightly. Then, welcome home. Willow rose up on her toes and kissed the corner of my lips. Thank you for waiting for me to come home. And just like that, we naturally fell into a relationship. But for Willow, things became more uncertain and fragile. Because I only ever said I liked her, never that I loved her. I would kiss her and say, I like you. I really, really like you. But to a woman, liking and loving are not the same. To make matters worse, we were both busy with work. We barely had time for each other every day. And I, having lived alone for so long, was used to solitude. So I often, unintentionally, ignored Willow's feelings. Until one day, I had to fly abroad for a 2-day business trip. I thought it was nothing. But the moment I landed, my phone was stolen. In a foreign country, there was no way to replace the SIM card. Thankfully, I had a backup phone. I asked a colleague at the company to inform Willow that I was away on a work trip. But when I got back to the country and finally replaced my SIM, I was hit with a flood of messages. Every one of them was from Willow. George, why did you leave me like that? Why did your coworker come to the house to tell me you were gone? Do you not want me anymore? Why can't I ever reach you? Why don't you reply? Are you really that busy? So, is this payback for the time I didn't answer your calls when I was abroad? George, please don't leave me. Every word shattered me. How could I bear to see Willow become so humble, so desperate? But the next message, it made my heart stop. Did you ever love me, George? Am I just Sophia's replacement? Chapter 27. That last message nearly made me jump out of my skin. I never treated her as anyone's replacement. Willow is Willow, utterly irreplaceable. I frantically dialed her number, but no one picked up. I rushed back to the place we now shared. As soon as I walked in, Diego, normally so mild-tempered, was red-eyed with frustration. Where the hell were you? We couldn't reach you at all. Willow nearly broke down. She locked herself in, stopped eating and drinking. She felt abandoned again. In those 2 years abroad, she suffered a lot. Every time she wanted to come back to you, she forced herself to hold back. She lived mostly off fennel noodles, just that, because it reminded her of home. Whenever she missed you, she'd look at the moon and tell herself not to cry. She studied like crazy, just so she could come back to you at her best. That silly girl was afraid she wasn't good enough for you. So when you disappeared for 2 days, it was a crushing blow. If Max hadn't been with her, she might have completely lost it. George, promise Diego something. Love her properly. If you love someone, tell them. Isn't that what love is? Every single word felt like a knife to the chest. She ate one bowl of noodles for 2 years. She didn't get sick of it, because she was in love, because she missed me. I nodded and bolted upstairs. I pounded on the door, calling Willow's name. Then a slip of paper was pushed out from under the door. It's okay. You can love someone else. You don't have to worry about me. Even now, Willow was still thinking about me. My heart, which had been too afraid to love, had already been slowly melting, bit by bit, with every message she'd sent over those 2 years. She'd long since carved out a space in my heart, one that no one else could ever fill. I refused to give up. I kept knocking, but Willow was determined to let me go, to set me free. I had no choice. I slammed against the door, and broke in. The room was dark. Thick curtains shut out all the light. I flipped on the switch, and saw her curled up in the corner. In front of her were dozens of design drafts. I walked over and looked at the notes on each one. Every single race car had been designed for me. The girl in the corner had red, swollen eyes. She looked up and muttered stubbornly, "Those aren't for you." My heart melted completely. Even at her angriest, she was still thinking of me. How could I not love such a pure, silly girl? It had only been 2 days, but her face had already thinned so much. I was heartbroken. "Why didn't you eat?" That one sentence shattered Willow's defenses. Tears welled up again. "Well, you didn't care anyway. So if I starved to death, it'd just..." She didn't finish the sentence, because I kissed her. I could feel her trembling. She tried to push me away, but then she saw the tears in my eyes. In that instant, all her anger disappeared. She didn't ask any more questions. She just held me tightly. And then she heard me whisper, "Willow, have I ever told you that I love you so deeply?" Of course I hadn't. Willow looked painfully aggrieved. But I gently lifted her face in my hands. I explained everything. Why I couldn't contact her. How there was nothing between Sophia and me anymore. It had only ever been a rumor I'd heard from an old classmate. Sophia had gone abroad to run a branch company. As always, she was surrounded by all kinds of men. But this time, every one of those men looked remarkably like George. But really, what did that have to do with me? Under the moonlight, I remembered the time Willow had ignored me. She had walked in on me hugging Sophia. She didn't say a word. She just quietly hid herself away, licking her wounds in silence. But now, I could look Willow in the eyes and tell her with certainty, "You were never the second choice. You're the one I love now, with all my heart. You once said I was a beam of light in your life, but your presence gave me the courage to fall in love with the world again. Every day I spend with you is filled with happiness. I may not say it often, but everything I do because I love you. Willow, you have every reason to be confident. In my heart, you are one of a kind, never a substitute for anyone. I love you like mountains and rivers, endlessly and without limit." Willow smiled, and interrupted my confession with a kiss. Sitting in my arms, she looked up and told me, "I love you like the stars in the sky, so many, they can't be counted." I said nothing more. Instead, I used my actions to show her how deeply I loved her. 3 months later, spring was in full bloom. The three of us, Willow, Diego, and I, along with Max, went to the park to enjoy the flowers. Diego played with Max, while Willow lay on my lap, gently feeding me sweet treats. In that moment, the cherry blossoms bloomed. The spring breeze was warm, and the world felt beautifully still. I couldn't help but smile. But the next second, Willow suddenly covered her mouth and began to retch. We locked eyes, and in that instant, we both knew. Our eyes turned red. "Willow, you know, I once thought I'd never find happiness again. But then, fate brought me you. And now, the fruit of our love is arriving." Willow nestled into my arms. "Then let's name the baby Serenity. What do you think?" A peaceful life. Everything we had in that moment was perfect. I took Willow's hand as petals danced through the air. This time, in this lifetime, I would never let go again.